For people watching, things that you should be looking out for in this is look out for Chain's rails and watch out for the general aggression from AV3K. Talking rockets, lightning gun, nails. Catch up. Looks like we've got a game to go to.
We do indeed. We're loading into Blood Covenant. It is going to be the Athena pick going up against that Visor from AV3K. Obviously he's going to take this first map, but Athena, I mean, it really is a special treat when we finally see this champion. Any champion in Time Limit Duel that has that everlasting ability you can kind of pop at will, really, in some ways, has an edge. You know, it's that piece of utility that's always there. You were talking about the aggression, and AV3K is going to deliver exactly that. He's going to get a 25-second frag, number one. He smells blood and went straight in. Small misstep for Chain. He decides, you know what, let's cut our losses, let's just get in the fight and make sure we do as much damage as we can, which I think was a very good decision from him. But of course, we walk away with AV3K in the lead. There are hooks available, though, for Chain, as stacks are pretty even. It's just the score that looks a little different. AV3K taking a bunch of damage, but not before getting a retreating rail to make the Mega not as impactful as it potentially could have been. The stack's relatively even right now, but not before a Tri-Bolt has done a fair amount of damage there towards AV3K. Piercing sights used just to try and get a bit of breathing space. Unfortunately, looks like Chain really is steamrolling full speed ahead against him. AV3K's trying to pepper down some of that Tri-Bolt to create some space. Chain keeping his stack and deciding maybe it's time to go for something a bit more important.
Well, AV3K's going to leave that heavy up for Chain if he wants to go and get it. Been there for a while. Good rail shot. Chain, is he going to investigate again? Looks like no. He'll fall back for that heavy. And this would test the timing of AV3K. Does he know that heavy's been taken recently? Whoa, what a shot there. There's chance for another. There's going to be two in a row. Said to look out for those Chain rails. He's going to find one off the spawn. He's going to swing up and go forward with the lightning gun. That is brilliant work for Chain.
And champion specific in that way too, you know, being able to go in for the grappling hook without having to use resources anywhere else. Perfect execution, gets the initial rail, knows AV3K's going to run up the top and just finish the job. And AV3K with a little bit of a head shake up, getting hit by that rail. These rails are looking absolutely spectacular. Megas has spawned, in fact, so Chain's going to decide to disengage temporarily, beat him towards Mega. Might be potentially a mistake, but he goes in for the heavy machine gun for a bit of extra range, doesn't hit his shots. AV3K might have been punished, but hang on, LG, pretty even so far. He makes the read, but misses the rail! That rail could have been so impactful. Chain has to be really careful how he approaches this. Both players really vulnerable. AV3K falling victim, and I think the forbidden fruit of the small health just too delicious.
Exactly. Suck it into that one. Chain has got to make a bit of a recovery because AV3K's looking strong with the stack off the spawn. Can't get the rocket up at the top, but it's good damage and is given opportunity to flee. Now he's just got to make sure he doesn't get played off the items too much. Maybe he won't look at necessarily getting onto the items next rotation, but the one after, hold on, AV3K just gets so aggressive all of a sudden. Off the back of a piercing sight, he brings it a frag closer.
A little bit of a delay there from Chain. Does not want to get caught fresh off the spawn, like he just delivered to AV3K a few minutes ago. But he's catching him down near pillars. Here comes that damage peppering down. AV3K has to be really careful with those vertical rails. I know they can sometimes be quite tricky to land, but doesn't really have a hard time landing that one. Chain forced to retreat. Now heavy is going to be the next objective. Chain taking a bunch of entry damage. Has to try and get out as often as he can, but looks like he's taken a fair amount. AV3K quite weak too. I wonder if Chain's going to be in a position to really challenge this, or nah, he's going to concede the Mega for now.
Yeah, AV3K's starting to get that armor. Chain falls down banana. Has that LP staircase area to kind of tighten up some angles a bit. Make it tricky for AV3K to deal the damage, but it just falls right into him. There's going to be a health bubble on the floor. There's going to be one good rocket. We've got a mid-air from him. Not quite the double like we saw before, but a chance for Chain to close that out will be AV3K instead. Clutching it out with a rail. 3 for 3.
That was such an amazing shot on that rail. Really was such a tiny little angle to hit, especially when he's sort of strafing to the left as well. Can't be understated how difficult some of those shots can be. Chain maybe getting taken a little bit by surprise by it. And so many of these fights are nail biters because when you look at the stack and the weaponry, it truly can go either way. No one has a distinct advantage. They do such similar damage, and it comes down to that final rail, the money shot. But now, rockets being traded just a little bit. Heavy spawning soon too, looking like he's eyeing it up. I think there's a bit of a split where do we go for the heavy and then concede Mega, or do we try and maybe bully a little bit and get both? But he has hit an immediate rail. AV3K in a wonderful position to land a little bit more. Chain maybe taking a bit too long to decide whether he's getting the heavy or not.
Oh, just missed rocket at the end. There was a chance there for a big punish. Chain's going to be able to negotiate one of the major items, looking to block off this choke point. He hasn't gone for the mega health, in fact. So he gets played off of this when there was a chance to secure some extra resources. We are at a tied game, so being able to keep that control even is pretty important.
But in the delay of Mega, it has created quite a gap in between them. Piercing sight bot. Easy pickup, and Chain in some ways doing him a favor.
Slightly fortuitous right there with the rocket, but I think AVIC would probably have found the angle anyway.
AVIC still looking to lay that pressure on. You know, it's just, there's something I love about watching AVIC's positioning. You know, you mentioned aggression, and aggression isn't always just constantly running into someone and shooting, right? It's just being around the right place of the map where the opponent feels like they can't move around. They feel like they're stuck in place. Chain getting some miracle LG to answer back. And because the Mega wasn't taken, should be able to top himself up quite nicely. Not without getting caught by the LG. Good spawn there for AVIC, actually, getting the LG so close.
That was insane LG from Chain. I think AVIC's going to regret making such an aggressive move down to the pillars. But as you say, he's got a chance to reset at the moment. He's got some armor to work with. Has got to go against all this juicy weaponry that Chain's holding on to. Chain, he's got a raging clue right now. He knows that AVIC's spotted.
But the second part of the job is going to be making sure you land the shot. The rocket's going to be it, followed by the combo. Light armor collected, but it'll be very hard, nigh impossible to challenge for that Mega without dying, so he's going to give it up. He's going to try and get in and out with the heavy. Chain's going to try and punish him a little bit, but he has to watch out for the damage on the other side of it. Chain without armor. We've seen how quickly lights can get melted away if there's no armor in the tank.
That piercing sight did just come back off cooldown. AVIC used it immediately, in fact, for information, but Chain doesn't really know when that ability is syncing up. HMG is going to push AVIC away from that. Continue things a little with his mega health.
Going to get more rail. Ah, right as he looks down, AVIC comes around the corner. That was just a wrong place, wrong time situation. Chain goes for a bonus rail just in case, but I think ultimately he doesn't want to give up this half of the map just yet. There's so much stuff that you can pick up, especially with the amount of rails he can potentially land. That said, he's only got 2 of them left. So the opportunity to try and restock on that ammo might be quite important, especially if he's missing the shots. They're not really adding up too much. Finally hits a rail, but forced to go and get more.
Yeah, he was hitting so much at the beginning. Okay, never mind. He seems to be hitting so much now. He had a small blip on the radar where it wasn't connecting for him, but seems to be coming back handily. There's the heavy armor. That's going to round off his stack very nicely. And now he can maybe make a play for the mega health. It's not up for a while, but AVIC's been spotted down at the bottom of pillars. Can he cut him off elsewhere?
More of those prediction rockets coming through. And one thing that has maintained over the course of this time map is that delay. And it's going to continue as AVIC now collects mega chunky stack to look at. Going in for those last-minute peak rails. I think it's that fine line, right, of trying to make sure that you can hit the rail while giving up as little of your own hitbox as physically possible. Chain forced to escape. Thankfully, Athena on deck has got the grappling hook. Chain doubles back and actually potentially surprised AVIC. Unfortunately, his follow-up rocket didn't quite hit the mark it should have. That decision to stop and turn around, AVIC went full speed. He was not ready for it. Unfortunately, no direct was had.
Still was a very close fight.
What a shot.
Yeah, AVIC on the drive-bys.
Chain still railable on his health. Undone a little bit with the 100 now, but no armor.
That 90 health threshold, or like when your armor and health adds up to 90, it's so dangerous. You want to get yourself out of that zone as fast as you can. Oh, he just walks right into AVIC. He's just a sitting duck on that cable.
I think at the very least, one thing Chain should have is a mental timer of when piercing sight will be ready again, because that instant rail around the corner, Chain should have enough of a sixth sense to think, okay, that must have been a piercing sight shot. But time is not going to be his friend right now, as the 1-minute warning has applied. AVIC on the verge of taking map 1. Very, very close, but as another frag goes down, Chain is going to fall. And that job just became so much harder, Zoo.
There was a heavy available for him. Of course, you need to know exactly what AVIC's doing in order to justify going over to it, but I think a couple of control hiccups may have been the difference between Chain winning and losing this game. It's now the scores difference is starting to escape Chain a little bit, but I think this game has been so close all the way between both of these guys.
There is a small, tiny potential maybe just past this point, unfortunately. The moment you lose about 3 seconds here and there this late in the map, there's just no shred of chance. So now Tri-Bolt's going to do a little bit of damage. And if anything, this is just, yeah, AVK playing through the rest of the map and now assessing, okay, well, that's 1-0 already.
That's it. One part of the job he's got here, and he's... I think there was a couple of moments in there where he was getting into it, but towards the end, he was really hitting his stride. That's going to be AVK taking map 1. 7-4, I believe it was. We will be heading over to Ruins in a few short moments.
You can always sort of naturally compare Ruins to Blood Covenant in some ways. You know, the size of the maps, the fact that very similar weapons are utilized for specific situations, you know, the rail playing a massive part. And although Chain's rail really hit its mark at the very beginning, as time started to progress, I feel like AVK was actually the one hitting a lot more of those entry shots that just put so much pressure on Chain, it's hard for him to escape, which some of it naturally is, I think, the struggle of some of those lighter champions like Athena, where she's always seen to be high risk, high reward, which can sometimes be characteristic of the way Chain approaches some of these maps. But fundamentally, the moment you take someone like Athena and you put her behind, her ability exists for mobility. And if you're hitting rails, it doesn't really matter how far or fast she's going. That right there. Yeah, there were some real pivotal fights that could have made all the difference. But how many times in these replays is AVK hitting an initial rail and Chain is kind of spending a lot of time trying to survive and clamber away and get more stack? It's all time that's being wasted at the same time too. So I
think Chain's heart sunk when he used that hook to get up below bridge, and he's just sitting in the air and he's like, yeah, I'm done. And I think at that point there, Chain maybe would have smelt the beginning of the end, because that means you've suddenly got so much work to do in the last minute and a half. Some good control we saw this game, though. 52% rail, that's super solid. He's got the LG and the heavy machine gun also up there. Yeah, absolutely spot on there from AVK. Another map. He can see himself going up versus Dahang.
AVK versus Dahang would be quite the matchup. But I think we're not there yet.
We're not.
We still have potentially 2 more maps to go. However, if AVK is maintaining this flow and this top form, I'm not going to talk about it too much, and I have no interest in elaborating, but I know AVK had quite the nightmare journey to get here. So the fact that he's able to deal with the amount of travel woes he's had, he's rocked up and he's still ready to go, and he's still able to play like nothing ever happened.
He's still a professional, right?
It's the legacy, right? It's the experience and how he can just roll up at a tournament and go, right, I'm here, guys, let's play.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying in this matchup. I think they're both very evenly skilled in sort of the raw duel area. It's just that experience. It's being on that stage and being able to perform like that. AVK has that aura about him. Ladies and gents, though, we're getting into map 2 now. AVK versus Chain on Ruins. If AVK wins this one, he goes through to the next stage of the tournament. If Chain wins it, we get a tiebreaker.
And you know, Chain and all of the Americas are cheering for their boy. This would be a great result.
Last Canadian standing. Just let Genic go out. And I know Chain would have been cheering for Genic super hard.
But I know there's also going to be maybe an element of self-pride if you're the last player standing from your territory, right? If Chain's able to progress and he's the highest placing Canadian, then...
Oh, so you think he's like, yeah, get out of here, Genic. I'm going to be the main Canadian here.
There can be only one. But with an early start, AVK... I always eye up Galena on a map like this. You know, when you've got so much space to get those totems gathered, Chain going in for an entry damage, and he's going to get the rocket, the dire orb, the big risk. But importantly, again, taking out so many of those totems, forcing AVK to have to start from the very beginning.
AVK's lightning gun was disgustingly good, but Chain's got the rockets out. I think he's got the favorable weapon for that kind of range. He's looking great. And Chain's incredibly good at this map, too. This is one of the best ones, in my opinion, for him. It's not the same map that he beat Raph on. I believe that was on Veil. But this is normally what I would put as Chain's #1 map.
And Ranger. I love watching a good Ranger on this map too. We've already seen the bold plays you can make. Initial rail's going to be good. Looking to get some more damage. Tries to combo in. By all means, this should be free. Easy money. 2-0 for Chain, and he's going to be rewarded with that heavy. Thank you very much.
Saving him from the ring out there. That was a noble gesture that we just saw from Chain.
But now AVK, he's able to maintain the Mega, but I feel like right now, Chain isn't really interested in the Mega. You know, with the thing about the less self-damage that Ranger takes means that as long as you've got plenty of armor, you can kind of pepper the ground in front of people in those like close-range, almost melee-style fights, especially once it's initiated thanks to Dire Orb. And you have to worry such less about the damage that you're doing to yourself. In turn, kind of sometimes maximizing the damage output to someone if they're close enough to you. Whoa, nice rail! Good shot there from CHA1N.
Absolutely sniped. Mega's just recently been taken, but CHA1N laying down the pressure a bit more, finds AV3K mid-air. He couldn't really think of a better time to get into the fight, but he's missing the rockets, left with 17 health. That is, yeah, fine line between success and disaster in the end.
It can be so tempting sometimes as well, I think, to go down under near jump pad to get your health back, but CHA1N, without really knowing what spawn AV3K had, going down there might have been quite the risk for getting refragged. There's nowhere to run. The Dire Orb was already used to score the frags. There was no escape there either. Excellent rail shot just to send AV3K back down. Goes back up, but obviously covers his bases just a little bit better.
Back down the bounce pad you go. Heavy going to be up shortly. Sees that there are some totems there, looks away for just a second. The Orb will get rid of the totem, but that doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. AV3K gets a pretty clean kill. He has the heavy. He can now go over to the mega health. Let's see. Rocket jump is going to be taken. And he's also spotted CHA1N. He's going for the rocket jump, which I think is a wise move. A tiny little movement slip up maybe prevents AV3K from securing the next kill very quickly.
However, the 3 flames, one of them being taken away. I was going to say AV3K was in a position to potentially overstack himself, and that will still apply if one of these other totems doesn't disappear. You know, CHA1N, he's going to be looking for them. He's going to be trying to take them out. He doesn't want AV3K to essentially have a mega on demand. But speaking of which, one of them does get taken down, leaving it at 2 for another time. CHA1N, very weak indeed. Even at that health, he needs light armor. But I feel like AV3K knows that he needs light armor, which is why he's kind of hitting the rail angles for the back. He's keeping an eye out, because that's where CHA1N would go if that's what he's trying to get back. That said, he's just realized, okay, well, he's nowhere to be seen, so where else should we go?
CHA1N's playing this really, really slow. He has got the lead to protect, goes into a dangerous fight. He can't find his way out. That rocket somehow connecting beautifully.
Threaded the needle by every sense of the term. But now AV3K sitting on a chunky stack and doesn't quite get the rocket jump, but unfortunately it means it's going to be hard for him to fight for the mega. It's kind of crazy to think sometimes.
Wait, he left it? AV3K sees it and he's like, for real?
Okay.
I'll take it. He takes damage, but now he's much less concerned about that because he's got an item to fall back on. Now 10 seconds between heavy and mega health. Does he want to push in? Has to respect the fact that there's a Dire Orb. It's got 5 minutes to go, so patience is certainly a valuable virtue to have in this instance.
Absolutely, and CHA1N can kind of make sure, as long as he's maintaining the heavy armor, there is always the potential that he can win a fight. However, he does still need to hit those initial rails. He did a wonderful job of hitting them first, but the moment one of those is missed, yeah, AV3K going full speed ahead, trying to avoid the Dire Orb, misses, so CHA1N loses the Orb and takes a bunch of damage. Thankfully, he gets a wonderful defensive rocket, forcing AV3K away, but because AV3K left the mega standing, he's able to now go back and just simply recollect.
I feel like CHA1N could have got himself both the major items then. It looks like CHA1N's focusing a lot more on the heavy timing, less so on the mega. I'd like to see him to pick back up on the mega health timing and be a little bit more present there, if possible. He might just be playing those strats too.
There's always the chance. He's going to entry now. Dropping the totem down, looking to pick up a frag, of which he does. CHA1N, unfortunately, right before heavy's even a factor, gets taken out. And AV3K establishes full control for another time. One thing CHA1N has done a great job of, though, so far, is destroying those totems. You know, we're not seeing an overstacked Galena. We're not seeing her like just run that circuit, I suppose. At
least rarely. These 2 totems here he's been struggling to find. That one totem right by the light armor, I think's been up for about 4 or 5 minutes, but the rest of them he's usually been incredibly on point with.
You almost wonder if CHA1N values being that part of the map just to get rid of it. I think the positioning that AV3K has thrown them, with the exception of the one near LG, you kind of really have to go out of your way to be in a position to hit those totems, and that's going to be time lost maybe if you're trying to run the second items. This LG is despicable at the moment. CHA1N got to be on 1 HP so far. Watch out for the totems, mate.
Yeah, exactly. They're hiding somewhere. Don't run right into them. CHA1N goes over towards lightning gun area. I think shotgun health bubble he took. Gets spotted, and that's going to be the rail. CHA1N was still searching for resources. AV3K puts himself into the lead with that rail shot. And now back onto triple totems.
Now with only 3 minutes left on the clock, the pressure is going to mount up as CHA1N has to make something happen. He still has a little bit of leeway. There is only one frag separating these two players, but I feel like, you know, one of the things is that AV3K is just showing so much he's showing so much respect to Diorb. I think that the range of which he's trying to take these fights, it's so much further away than it was at the very beginning. Like, CHA1N would just get in and establish that 2-3 piece combo and just delete AV3K. But now look at every time a fight's happening. AV3K's almost rarely point blank. Forces CHA1N to have to sort of time his orb a little bit differently, might be a little bit distracted.
Basically, as soon as you started saying CHA1N was good with getting rid of totems, AV3K was just getting them down.
Yeah.
It's basically since then.
These long-range rails become they become so much less impactful once you have the triple up. But now CHA1N hasn't got a lot of time left. I wonder if he goes to get rid of those totems, it's going to send a lot of information to AV3K, and at the same time kind of put CHA1N in no man's land if he's not able to get out in time. Depends entirely on where he is on the map, I suppose, but topping up just to get a little bit of that overstack. Tops up for another time, and he's so healthy. The fight's going to break out. One of the totems is gone. We'll see how much that's really going to impact as CHA1N backs off, tries to establish, tries to steal the Mega. He knows, look, 2 frags, totally possible with just short of 2 minutes. But he has to make something happen very, very soon, otherwise that pressure's going to add up. Goes in for the orb almost immediately. However, every time these rockets are landing, it's kind of forcing AV3K away. It's doing him a favor, in effect.
Finally managed to find one of those totems so AV3K can't just go away and immediately get himself overstacked. That's a big, big help for CHA1N. CHA1N's going to find him by the light. Slightly outstacked by AV3K in that engagement. About connecting with those shots too. A little bit of splash from both sides. We've got 70 seconds to go, and CHA1N has got to find some courage from someone. Got to find some stack to apply to the courage. And that is going to be a heavy. So this is the opening for CHA1N. This 60 seconds could be incredibly dramatic, and he has to get something done if he wants to stay in the tournament.
But this is desperation point. We are very quickly reaching the point of no return, Zoot. And now CHA1N, AV3K just completely shifting gears and going into hyper defense. No reason to overextend. Just sit there and listen out for some information. The defensive shots will try and force CHA1N away or get some bonus damage. And now CHA1N has to pull out all the stops. He is going to at least catch sight of AV3K. Forced to jump down. Dropping down the totems for AV3K as well. Is it possible? The rail misses. And that miss might be the entire map slipping through CHA1N's fingers.
Yeah, he's got to find him in a second flat, basically. AV3K's just hiding back in that corridor. I think CHA1N knows it too. And AV3K's just going to cycle around and get himself up the bounce pad. We've got some spam rockets on the sidelines. CHA1N trying to find an angle. He might just find all these totems that have been lurking there for so long. Guys, that's going to be GG. 6-3 to AV3K, making it a 2-0 victory.
Well played to AV3K for sure. I'm glad he's still got energy left in the tank, and I'm glad he's still had the mental fortitude all the way through to stick true to the plan. I think there was 2 different styles in the 2 different maps. I think he wasn't even being crazy aggressive on Ruins. He was just keeping CHA1N kind of on the edge of a string.